Determine if the function f of x is continuous at a equals 0. If not, choose a reason that it's not continuous. F of x is equal to e to the x for x values that are less than or equal to 0, and it's equal to 3 minus 2 times the cosine of x for x values greater than 0. So let's examine our piecewise function and go through all the criteria to determine whether or not this function is continuous. The first piece is, does f of a exist? Well, we can look at our domain values here, and we can see that f of a does exist for all a values within this domain. For x being less than or equal to 0, we substitute it in here. For x being greater than 0, we substitute it in here. And neither of these pieces of our function contain critical values where jumps, pulls, asymptotes, etc. occur. So therefore, B is not our answer choice here because f of a does exist. So the next question is, does the limit of f of x as x approaches a exist, specifically when a equals 0? So let's change this a value to be 0. Does this exist? Well, let's actually find out by taking the limit of our function at 0 from both sides. So the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 from the left would go into e to the x. So that would be e to the 0, which is 1. And then if we do the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 from the right, that would be equal to 3 minus 2 times the cosine of 0. Well, cosine of 0 is 1, so we would have 3 minus 2, which is also 1. Notice both of these limits do equal 1. So therefore, the limit of f of x as x approaches a for all x values, especially when a is 0, does exist. So the answer choice C here is not the answer choice. And then let's look at D. Does the limit of f of x as x approaches a equal f of a? Is that not true? Well, found out that f of 0 is e to the 0, which is 1. So they do equal one another, so this is true. Therefore, we can determine that f of x is continuous. And if we switch over to the graph just to verify, we've entered this piecewise function into our calculator, and we can clearly see that even at 0, we're at 1. It is clearly defined, and that was the only major critical number that we had to determine that at. And it's continuous. As you go through, there are no breaks. So again, this verifies that f of x is continuous, especially at a equals 0. So answer choice A.